Welcome to our pre-recorded training for staff who work with children in the early years, Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. We hope you find the information presented here useful. This training aims to give you some ideas of ways to support children who stammer in your setting, to help them continue to be confident communicators and to help make talking a bit easier for them. The aims of this training session are for you to understand what stammering is, for you to take away some practical strategies to support children stammering, and to know where to go for further information and support. Stammering, also known as stuttering, is a neurological condition. This means it is to do with the way the brain is wired and develops. Speaking is a very complex and complicated process that involves many different areas of the brain and lots of muscles. Brain imaging studies show us that the brains of people who stammer process speech slightly differently to the brains of people who don't stammer. This is certainly not a bad or a negative thing. It is simply that the brains of people who stammer just work and process speech slightly differently. Studies are ongoing as to which parts of the brain are involved in stammering, but brain imaging research has clearly shown these differences occurring. Next, we will talk about what stammering can look like and sound like and discuss the causes of stammering. Stammering or stuttering can take many forms and can be different for each child. These are the most typical features. Repeating whole words, for example, and then I left. Repeating individual sounds or parts of words, for example, come here or bike. Prolonging of sounds, for example, sometimes I go out. Blocking of sounds, where the child is trying to speak but no sound comes out. There may be facial tension in the muscles around the eyes, nose, lips or neck, and for some children there may also be extra body movements, for example clenching fists, stamping feet, tapping fingers, sometimes in an attempt to get the sound out. The breathing pattern may change too. For example, a child may hold their breath or take an exaggerated breath before speaking. Stammering features will probably vary in their frequency according to the speaking situation. Internal factors are also recognised as part of the experience of stammering. For example, some children may experience emotional reactions to stammering and can be frustrated or upset at times. These can sometimes be the result of other people's negative reactions to stammering. Sometimes children might try to reduce stammering, for example by saying, "I've forgotten what I was going to say," or by avoiding talking altogether. Some children may switch to another word when they begin to stammer, so they might say, "I played with my sister on Saturday." Hesitations can be a typical feature of speech. Repeating whole phrases, restarting, and using and are not usually considered to be stammering behaviours. Figures suggest that somewhere between 5 and 8% of children will stammer at some point, most commonly starting between the ages of 2 and 5 years old. As we said earlier, stammering is a neurological condition and is caused by slight differences in the way the brain processes speech. As with other neurological conditions, stammering can run in families. Just under 70% of people who stammer have a family member who also stammers. We know stammering is not caused by parents or anything that parents have done, so please do reassure parents about this if they are concerned. We know that stammering is also not caused by psychological factors. For example, it is not caused by anxiety, nervousness or stress. These feelings may instead make the frequency of stammering higher in that moment. For example, if a child has experienced other people's negative reactions to stammering in the past, they may feel more apprehensive about talking, which in turn may increase the frequency of the stammering at that time. It's okay to talk about stammering with children. Adults can provide support, reassurance and encouragement for them, just like when they find other things tricky. Talking about stammering can be really helpful for children to make sure their confidence to communicate stays high. We will revisit this a bit later on. It's worth noting that the level of stammering at the start does not necessarily mean it will continue in the same way. Often, when children start to stammer, the level of stammering can be quite high, but this doesn't necessarily mean that the child will continue to stammer in that way. Stammering can go up and down from day to day and week to week. Sometimes it's high and other times it's low. We have no way of knowing exactly which children will continue to stammer and which will stop. For many children, stammering reduces over time and they will no longer stammer. And for a small number, the stammering continues. Talking with children is such a joyful experience. We all want to support children to enjoy talking and engaging with the world, and for them to know that what they have to say is valuable and important. Neurodiversity is a celebration of how everyone's brains are wired differently and the positives that this can bring. We are all different in lots of ways, and these differences are natural, valuable, and what makes life interesting. Life would be boring if we were all the same. Stammering is part of this neurodiversity. It is a different and valuable way of talking. In light of this, it's useful to consider our own thoughts and attitudes towards stammering. There have long been certain stigmas associated with stammering, and these may well have influenced our own reactions to stammering. It is helpful for us to think about the types of words or the language we use when we talk about stammering and what others around us say too. People do not suffer from and are not afflicted by stammering. They just stammer. Let's explore more of the ways we can talk about stammering. Some people may say, stammering is bad today, or the stammering is worse at the moment. Instead, it can be more helpful to say, there is more stammering today, or the stammering is higher today. If someone describes stammering as bad or worse, it can give children the message that stammering is somehow bad or wrong, and they may develop unhelpful thoughts and feelings about talking and stammering, and they may stop talking in some situations, when really we want them to enjoy talking and to be confident communicators, whether they stammer or not. So it is more helpful for people to describe the stammering as higher, lower, or more, less, as these are more objective and neutral ways to talk about stammering. If someone says, she can't speak properly, this comment is critical. Stammering is just a different way of talking. It's not bad or worse than any other way of talking. If we consider the amount of natural variation in how we all communicate, for example, accents, local sayings or words, variations in speed, tone of voice, etc., there is a lot of variety out there. No two people sound the same, and stammering is just another variation. Instead, it can be more helpful to say, she stammers when she talks, or sometimes her words get stuck. These comments are factual and not judgmental. Finally, someone may say, you'll grow out of it. Now, we cannot yet predict which children will continue to stammer into adulthood and which ones won't. By using phrases such as you'll grow out of it, the expectation is that the child should grow out of it, and therefore the implication could be that in some way they have failed by not growing out of it, which may develop into feelings of low self-esteem. Instead, it's more helpful to focus on accepting stammering when it is there and shifting focus to other ways to support the child. The stammering might stop or it might carry on. Either way, it's okay. A useful way to think about stammering is to picture an old-fashioned set of weighing scales, with the child's skills and abilities on one side, all the things that help them with their talking, and on the other side of the scales are the demands placed on the child. So we have capacities on one side and demands on the other side. The capacities of the child may include things like their vocabulary, speech clarity, their confidence, and social skills like turn-taking. The demands may be the situations and experiences that the child faces on a day-to-day basis that require those skills and abilities to be used. These are situations which put some demand on the child. The demands may be internal, like difficulty finding the right words or saying particular speech sounds clearly, or they could be external, caused by the situation or the environment in which they are talking. For example, time pressure, tiredness, excitement, other people's reactions to stammering, turn-taking, new experiences, the list goes on. If the scales tip one way, talking is easier for the child, but if they tip the other way because of too many demands, then the child's brain becomes overloaded and talking can become harder. More stammering may occur as a result. This can explain why stammering can come and go as the demands placed on the child vary. You might wish to consider some of the questions here on the slide. Think about the child you're working with who stammers. What capabilities do they have which will help them with talking? What demands are being placed on them? What could be done to reduce the demands and make talking easier? And what are you already doing that helps? We are now going to move on to think about how we can reduce some of these demands placed on the child to make talking feel easier for them. These are some helpful ways to support children who stammer. Keep confidence high by giving encouragement to young people that their views and opinions are valued. For example, "You have such interesting ideas. Thank you for sharing them." "I enjoy listening to your stories. They have lots of detail." Encouragement about talking and about other areas are really helpful. For example, "Thank you for tidying up. You are really helpful." "You concentrated so hard on learning how to throw the ball into the hoop. You showed lots of determination." Find the good stuff. Write down one thing every day that you are pleased to notice. Shifting our perspective to what's working well helps to boost our mood and recognize strengths and resources. You can encourage children to do this too. We can ask them, "What was fun today? What was the best thing about today? What were you pleased with today?" They can do this by talking about it, writing it down, or drawing pictures. Try to encourage a can-do attitude by supporting children to take risks, try new things, and see making mistakes as learning opportunities. It would be useful for the child to have regular sessions with an adult at their setting with whom they're comfortable. During these sessions, they can play a simple turn-taking game, for example, Jenga, and use this as an opportunity to talk about things. For example, "What's been going well?" This could be about communication. For example, "I answered a question in class," or "I spoke in assembly and felt very pleased." Or it could be about other things that have gone well. For example, "I learned how to roller skate." Other things you could talk about include what they've been pleased with, what teachers have been pleased to notice, if there's anything they need help with, or if there are any problems that may have arisen that they need help to resolve. These could be related to communication and talking, or any other area. The adult can use this as an opportunity to give praise for effort, the learning that the young person has displayed that week, and to draw attention to strengths. For example, "You tried really hard with long division in maths. That showed real determination." This regular contact can be very reassuring for children, as they know there is someone they can talk to. Celebrating what's gone well and discussing what they need help with. This can boost confidence, self-esteem and resilience. Keep checking in regularly. This could be termly, or it could be more regularly, depending on the child. Keep doing this as their confidence grows and the support that they need changes. Celebrate diversity. Stammering is caused by slight differences in the way the brain processes speech. It is part of neurodiversity, alongside other differences such as dyslexia. When you are talking about general differences between people, include stammering in this conversation about diversity. This can be done as part of general discussions about diversity, not specifically about the child who stammers themselves, unless they have particularly asked for this. It's useful to tell the class that some people's talking is bumpy or they stammer, and other people's talking is smooth or they don't stammer. We can tell the class that when someone is stammering or stuttering, it's helpful for them to wait for the person to finish, show interest in what they're saying, and keep eye contact or keep looking at the person who's talking. This is part of good communication with anyone, regardless of whether they stammer. Some people speak with different accents, pitches, and speeds. Wouldn't it be boring if we all talked in exactly the same way? We all talk in different ways, and everyone's ideas and views are valued. These discussions can be really valuable for the whole class. Before you have these discussions with the class, talk about it with the child and their family sensitively first to make sure they are comfortable with these class discussions. They may have ideas to contribute to the discussion too. Acknowledge challenges and give reassurance, just as you would for any other challenges or things a child finds difficult. Give reassurance and support to children when they are finding talking difficult. I can see you're frustrated. Talking can be tricky sometimes. You have brilliant ideas and we love hearing them. We always want to hear what you have to say. Ask the child what helps. Every child who stammers is different. Ask them sensitively what helps. Useful questions may be, I can see that talking is sometimes a bit tricky for you. What would you like me to do or say when you're stammering? Their answer may be, please just wait for me to finish saying what I want to say, or don't interrupt. You could ask, what helps make talking easier for you? What is not helpful? What can we do instead? You might ask about specific circumstances like, are you happy answering the register? What can we do to make things easier? Do you like talking in big groups? Do you like talking in small groups? Remember, what helps them will likely change over time, so keep asking and checking in at regular intervals. Some children might want lots of adaptations to be made, and others might not need many adaptations or anything different at all. Check in with the child and the family about what helps. Perhaps most importantly, have fun and enjoy talking together. Communication is a wonderful thing, and it's a joy to hear children's language develop and to explore their thoughts, ideas and views together. Keep enjoying your interactions together and keep encouraging them to share their thoughts and engage with others around them in lots of different situations. We've just been through some helpful ways to support children who stammer. Here are a few more top tips and useful strategies that adults can use. Slowing down your own rate of talking. We tend to mirror the speech style and rate of the people we are talking to, so if we talk very quickly to a child, they will likely start talking back to us very quickly. But if we as adults slow our own talking down, then the child will reduce their speed too. This gives them more time to plan what they want to say, to sort out the sounds and words so that talking becomes easier. It also shows children that speech isn't something that needs to be rushed out under pressure. You are demonstrating with your own manner of talking that you can take your time and there is space for everyone to talk. Telling children to slow down is often not so helpful. Depending on their age and level of understanding, they may just look at you confused, or they may find it frustrating if we ask them to slow down. Whilst we might think we are giving helpful advice, the onus is on us as the listener to adapt our interaction skills. Rather than telling the child who stammers what to do, i.e. slow down, it is much more helpful for you to slow down your own rate of talking. We would also suggest that you don't tell children to take a breath or give them advice about breathing, as this can also become confusing for them. It is important to give the child space to finish off saying what they want to say. Most children who stammer do not find it helpful if you try to finish off their sentence or guess what they're trying to say. If you get it wrong, they may have to go back to the start of their sentence, which may be more effortful and time-consuming for them. Instead, show them you are listening and give them plenty of time to finish speaking. As staff working with children, you will naturally ask the children you work with lots and lots of questions throughout the day. However, questions can put a lot of pressure on a child to talk and to say a specific thing. When interacting with a younger child, instead of asking, "What's that?" we can use comments to describe things. So we might say, "Oh, a green train," or "You're driving the car really fast." For an older child, we might tell them about our weekend and then say, "If you'd like to tell me about your weekend, I'd love to hear about it." So using comments instead of questions can be really helpful. This reduces the pressure on your child and means that they are not put on the spot to say something right now or at a particular time. By making comments, we aren't demanding when they say something. Instead, we're opening up the door to a conversation, and they can choose what to say and when to say it. A couple more top tips. Avoid asking too many questions in a row. This could feel a bit like an interrogation, and it places a lot of pressure on a child's language processing system. Some questions can be helpful, especially on days where talking is easier for the child. If you ask a question, wait for the answer. Give your child at least 10 seconds to respond before asking another or saying the same question again. Think about the language that you are using. Children will naturally try to match the language they hear around them. If adults tend to use long sentences with them, they will try to do the same back. Stammering often occurs in situations where children are trying to use lots of language before they are developmentally ready. By keeping your own sentences shorter, your child will probably do the same, and this may help them to talk more easily. It is also useful to avoid asking the child to repeat things that may be too long or complex for them. For example, say "Thank you for the Spider-Man costume, Mohammed." Here are some more helpful strategies. Focus on what the child says and not on how they say it. So respond to the message. Try not to get too hung up on the stammering, but really value what they are trying to tell you or share with you. Whether the sentence comes easily or whether they get stuck on lots of words, it's important to show the child that you're interested in what they have to say. If we focus on the content of a child's talking, we can show children that what they say matters, not how they say it, and we can build their confidence that they are good communicators. Reassure your child that talking can be tricky sometimes and that stammering is okay. As we've said before, it's helpful to give reassurance and encouragement, just like you would when they find other things tricky. Many adults who stammer say they wish that people had talked more about stammering with them when they were young, rather than it becoming the elephant in the room that no one mentioned. By talking about stammering, we can alleviate some of the anxiety that the child may be feeling and give them the language they need to be able to talk about stammering themselves. If adults feel comfortable when children are stammering, this will help young people to feel relaxed and confident when they are talking. Keep a calm and relaxed expression when your child is talking and stammering. This shows them that you are relaxed and interested in what they are saying. If adults feel uncomfortable, the child could pick up on this and they might feel like they are doing something wrong. It can be helpful for adults to get used to hearing stammering and what it can sound like. A great place to hear stammering is on the Stambassadors website by Action for Stammering Children. Finally, we would like to suggest some useful resources for you. Stammer, which used to be called the British Stammering Association, have a really good website with lots of helpful resources and videos. If you follow the link on this slide, it takes you to lots of these. The website is www.stamma.org. There is a really good series of short videos called How to Help Talking to a Child Who Stammers, and another great video with lots of practical suggestions, which is called 7 Tips for Talking with a Child Who Stammers. Please do take a look at these. There is also a really helpful short article on the Stammer website about nurturing resilience in children who stammer. The link is given for you on this slide. We've included the link for the Stambassadors page by Action for Stammering Children, which we've previously talked about. This features videos by people who stammer working in many different jobs, plus videos by young people who are at university. It will be helpful for teachers to watch the videos so they can become more aware of what stammering is and how it sounds different for each person. It is a good resource to help raise awareness of stammering and to support people to celebrate stammering as a different way of talking. Finally, there is a great book called Stammering, Pride and Prejudice, pictured here, which has chapters written by lots of different people, including people who stammer, parents of children who stammer, and speech and language therapists. If you would like further suggestions or feel that a child you work with would benefit from some extra support, please contact us. All options for contacting us, including phone numbers and email addresses, can be found on the Community Children's Health Partnership website given here. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation, and we hope you found it helpful.